on this edition of the Self-Publishing Show.
I took a leap to quit my job here with my parents and then moved to Costa Rica for 6 months. And then I wrote while I was out there and just built up. I basically decided when I come home, I'll be part-time or full-time writer. And I was part-time when I came home. And then I went full-time that Christmas.
Publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers. No more barriers. No one standing between you and your readers. Do you want to make a living from your writing? Join indie bestseller Mark Dawson and first-time author James Blatch as they shine a light on the secrets of self-publishing success. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome. It is the Self-Publishing Show with me, James Blatch.
And me, Mark Dawson. Hello.
Hopefully I'm looking bronzed if you're watching on YouTube. Do I look bronzed to you?
You look like an Adonis.
Thank you, I know.
A Greek god.
And I'm still wearing my clothes, just to point out. It's not like the statues.
Thankfully.
I've been in France for a week, enjoying the sun. It is hammering it down here all day today, back into the grey UK. I was speaking to Mark Recklau, who's been on this podcast before, and he's recently moved to Malta. He lived on a boat in Barcelona, you might remember, if you remember that episode. But he's moved to Malta just because life, weather, tax probably falls into that as well. And so Jill and I, my wife, have just spent 3 days talking about that annual conversation we have after being on holiday about why don't we live somewhere with nice weather? It's so miserable.
Yeah. We've thought about that too, but we've got a dog and Lucy has a horse. So it's a little bit, I think we've kind of put the kibosh on that for a while. Plus, of course, our kids are in school, so not something that we can easily do right now. You don't have those issues.
Our kids.
Not much longer.
Well,
anyway.
yeah, exactly. I've got about 3 or 4 years and my children move on to hopefully the next stage, giving us some freedom. Although we do have a dog. You can get dogs' passports. You can get horses' passports, of course. In fact, horses had passports before dogs because they used to go and race in the Arc de Triomphe, what it was called. Pre-Arc de Triomphe.
I suppose, especially you could ride him somewhere. Tuscany would be quite nice.
Yeah, there you go. One of those white ones. Good. Okay. Right. Well, my holiday week was a little bit interrupted, as yours was, by us dealing with a bit of firefighting. These things happen occasionally, and they happened to you and to SPF last week. So we are going to talk about that. I should say, if you've been following some of the things that have been in the on social media and in the mainstream press as well, you may have found it odd we didn't refer to it at all last week. That's because we pre-recorded a couple of episodes so that I could go away. But we are back live in the room, as it were, recording this on the Monday for the Friday's episode. So we can talk about what happened to you, which was, I hesitate to use the word exciting, but it was definitely interesting, as the curse goes. So this all began with the hardback version of your book, The Cleaner. And some of you, I think a lot of you probably have followed this one way or another. However, some of you might not know what we're talking about at all, so we should probably just set it out and explain the sort of learning experience that we've been through over the last 10 days or so. And perhaps you should start, really, Mark, by just explaining. I mean, The Cleaner is an older book of yours, but this was a new version of it.
Yeah, so it's above me on the shelf up there. So yeah, it is a brand new hardback edition, first that's been published in that format by Welbeck, who are my absolutely awesome publishers. I'll be saying something else about in a moment. And so it's in the stores, it's in supermarkets and all kinds of places, and has been really, really exciting. And even though we're going to talk about some stuff that has the potential to be, it's been a difficult week, there's no two ways about it, but it hasn't taken the shine off a really exciting experience. I worked with some great people, and it's one of those things. We'll deal with it, but I don't want people to think that this has been an ordeal, because that wouldn't be true at all.
No, I mean, we should definitely say well done to Welbeck. They've been fantastic. I remember when you first started talking about this deal, and I was thinking, do you know what? In this day and age, with high street dying a little bit and ebooks rising, he's an entrepreneurial guy, the guy at the top of Welbeck, isn't he? And he's obviously sees an opportunity, market opportunity, but one that you have to work very hard at, I think, to find the margins. But I think they've done a fantastic job, and I think you must be pleased with that as well. So you have this lovely hardback edition, as you said. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it above Mark's right shoulder. And one of the things I know that you were doing is basically sending out these bespoke copies to people, you were signing it, trying to get them in the hands of readers, different ways of doing that. So that was the starting point of where things got a little bit tricky down the line. So just explain about your role, which is part indie author, part trad author here, really, because you're doing kind of indie stuff in doing a bit of fulfilling sales.
Yeah, so UK readers were pretty easy. We had WH Smiths were fantastic. They got on board really early, and they were I signed several hundred copies for Smiths to post out to UK readers, and that, as far as I know, went really, really well. So that they had a good number of. So of course, I told my list, if you're in the UK and you'd like a signed copy, here's where you go to get it, and they all, readers went to do that, and they got their copies, which was great. But in the course of sending that email out, I got lots of emails from non-UK readers who asked how they could get a signed copy too. So we obviously now have to, completely honestly, I wanted those sales to count. I wanted as many sales as possible to count towards the chart, just as I would for an Amazon launch or any other kind of situation. I wanted to get those sales to register. So I spoke to Welbeck, and we tried very, very hard, or they tried very hard to find some way that those sales could be fulfilled to other readers. And we had Smiths wouldn't ship abroad, so we couldn't do it that way. We tried a couple of other options, and not from want of trying, they just didn't pan out in a way that was economically viable for most readers. So I kind of did the indie thing, I suppose, and I thought, well, perhaps I can do it. So that was kind of the genesis of it. I wanted to make sure that readers could get the books, and of course, I wanted those sales to count towards the chart. And I don't think, and I still don't think, there was anything wrong in that at all.
So what you actually did was you sourced the books yourself, made sure it was a little independent bookshop. Actually, that was a deliberate choice to get a bit of cash going over their desk as well. And then you fulfilled the orders, literally envelope stuffing on a kitchen table. Now, the suggestion is that it was wrong of you to do that at a time when you were trying to chart, that using those sales to try and chart was wrong. That was the suggestion, right?
Well, I mean, I've seen that kind of. We can get onto what the suggestion was in a minute, but yeah, I've seen people suggesting that it was devious or nefarious or all those kinds of things, and it really, really wasn't. Now, again, we'll get onto this. Those sales have been removed. There's about 400 orders that were placed by non-UK readers, and that was the number of books that I bought to fulfill those orders. And those sales have now been taken away, discounted by Nielsen. I am completely fine about that. Yeah. I've been very, very impressed with Nielsen throughout this. And again, we'll touch on this in a minute, but there was a single rule in their rule book which I wasn't aware of, and you could make the case that I should have been aware of that. I'm not going to argue that too strenuously, but they found that those books were they shouldn't have counted. The reason being that they went to non-UK consumers, so they were effectively exported. So again, I have absolutely no problem with that at all. And those 400 sales, I mean, originally it charted at 8, so we got to number 8, which was wonderful. Those sales then were discounted, and the book dropped to 13, which, let's be honest, that's still wonderful. I'm still very pleased with that. And the good news is the book is selling strongly even after all this kerfuffle has taken place. Yeah, it is
a shame this has detracted from the main achievement here of Welbeck and yourself, is to get a book into number 13 in the hardback charts in the UK. Is fantastic, and a very prestigious list that is, organised by Nielsen. And something I really want to make this point, it should be obvious, and this is a point lots of people have made to us in emailing us their support, is that you have been completely transparent about this all the way through. This is not an underhand tactic to try and game a system. It's not an underhand tactic to do in the dark, to try and manipulate anything. This is you doing what indies do, which is maximizing your marketing efforts and telling people about it and how to do it. But maybe, I know, can I use the word naive? Would you take that? It was a bit naive of you to think, or to not stop and think. And actually, do you know what? My BBC background, I should have stopped to think as well when you were talking to me about it a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, that was the mistake.
So it was, I mean, we've been very transparent about it. We've podcasted on this point twice. And We've been going into lots of detail on that. Obviously, I've also been emailing my readers. Now I know that lots of authors are on my reader mailing list. I know that to be a fact, and so it isn't something that I've kind of been whispering about. It's been, I've been, kind of, I suppose in some ways I'm like the crash test dummy here. I've been trying to find ways to maximize the launch, and this felt like a good one for me. The next thing that happened, we'll just quickly rattle through the rest of it. This came out on a Monday. I was in Lowestoft on Tuesday. My dad is ill, and I'd actually gone down to be with him in hospital. So I was actually with the kids at a zoo in Lowestoft. So had lots of phone conversations with Welbeck and then with Nielsen. So I spoke to the MD of Nielsen, who I have to say was fantastic. A really nice guy. And we had two very good discussions where I explained what had happened. He explained his position from Nielsen's point of view, and his view was, and they put out a statement to kind of codify this, and also we had some discussion beyond that, and they concluded that it was an innocent error, which is absolutely correct, and he didn't feel that I'd acted unethically, or that I tried to game the system, which is kind of what the article was suggesting. So, his view is that it was like a virtual book signing. So I had readers wanted signed copies. I signed them. I sent them off. And, the only rule, as we say, the only rule that was broken was that those books, in this instance, went to non-UK readers. If it wasn't for that, I think those sales would all have counted. So, I know that now. That's not a mistake I'll make twice.
Right, we do actually have the perfect antidote to a little bit of a dip in an author career, which is an interview with a fantastic pair of authors. They are sisters Caroline and Susanne Peckham from here in UK. They live in Kent. I first met Caroline at Vegas last year, and she came and introduced herself, and we had a chat over a beer, and I was really taken aback with her level of commitment and enthusiasm to what they were doing, trying to get their writing career going. I think they both wrote, well, they talk about this in the interview, independently. But then I met her again on our boat on the Thames after our conference.
We should add there, we don't have an SPF boat.
Yeah, the yacht.
On the speedboat.
Yeah, on the
the yacht. You're very on the yacht.
I know. I was in Monaco last week. They do look very nice, those yachts. We don't have one of those, no. I met her on the boat, our drinks party boat, after the conference, and was blown away at the scale of their success. They couldn't stop smiling. They just had their first $50,000 month. They are absolutely brilliant. They're prolific writers, which is a really helpful thing, as we often say. But I'm going to let them tell the rest of the story. Here is Caroline and Susanne.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Show. Caroline and Susanne. We've had a few husband and wife teams, and I know of at least one brother team in the community. And here we have sisters who are doing it for themselves. Oh God, I've fallen into cliche already. So you better tell us how this all started, because I think you both grew up wanting to be writers, both writing independently. Is that how it started?
Yeah, we both self-published about 2015.
Yeah.
And then we were writing for about 2 years before that, and we were sort of talking to each other while that was going on. And then
one of those things I think we'd always said, we should do it. And then like our parents would go, what do you want to do? You need to go and get a job. We'd be like, we're going to be writers. And they'd be like, yeah, okay, but like get a real job. And then we kind of were like, let's actually do it. And then kind of pushed each other, like, have you done a chapter today? Have you done anything today? And I guess we just always kind of done it together.
At that stage, back in 14, you said, that's you writing your own books.
That was separate.
So just encouraging each other, but not working as a joint enterprise.
Yeah, we edited for each other.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so we beta read, I guess, and edited for each other.
Yeah.
And helped each other out with a few ideas, but mostly just separate books.
Yeah, I mean, I'd not really heard of co-authoring at all, to be honest. It never even occurred to me that we would write together until we saw other people doing it. And then it was 2018 Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
We had a chat about it and we're like, let's give it a go and see if it works. Because we had no idea, because it's such a different process. So obviously, like, open it up, and it's such a writing so personal.
Yeah,
that it was kind of like a bit of a shift to then be like, we're going to write
share the characters,
share it all. Come up with the ideas together and everything.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I definitely want to talk about that process and how that's been for you. But just so I understand the journey that you've had, Mark doesn't like the journey word, but I've used it. The journey you've had. You started doing this independently. What genres were you writing in when you both sat down and just started writing?
So I wrote dystopian. Like both sort of. I was reading a lot of things like the Hunger Games and stuff. So I did dystopian series for my first. Well, dystopian and then apocalyptic, like as it was actually happening, that were linked together. And
then I did a fantasy YA was my first series, and then I did a vampire paranormal romance action kind of series after that, and then that was my sort of game changer series. I went full time on that after about a year.
Wow.
In 2017, I think I went full time. Yeah.
Was there a sense of competition at that stage, Susanne? Were you thinking, damn it?
Not like, we've never really been competitive with each other, but it was kind of like, come on, because I was really not. I just really wanted to do it too, but then I was in a slightly different position with having like the mortgage to pay and the kids, and just being like, I have to pay my bills, and being scared to kind of take the leap, and also to really invest money into the advertising. Like Caroline would be like, oh, you have to spend £100, and I'd be like, it's £100, like I need that for whatever, and I'd be really scared to do it.
I spent a long time studying on the marketing side of it, and then my vampire series was kind of written to market. It was my first series, wasn't at all, and then I took a leap to quit my job here with my parents, and then moved to Costa Rica for 6 months, and then I wrote while I was out there and just started getting the vampire series ready. This was before I went full time, so this was like, I was determined. I basically decided when I come home, I'll be part-time or full-time writer.
Wow.
And I was part-time when I came home, and then I went full-time that Christmas.
So you were the risk taker, but as you say, Susanne, you were married with children at this point, and
well, I had my little girl at the same time as Caroline went to Costa Rica. Riley was 3 months or something, wasn't she? So I was sort of in the midst of like, I've got a baby, and how do I deal with doing all of this at the same time?
It does, without question, makes big life-changing decisions more difficult. There's no question about that. I think we all accept that. As a Formula One boss once said that one of his drivers, as soon as they had children, took a second off his lap as well. There's a kind of inbuilt thing where you just don't risk everything anymore. So anyway, Caroline, you were young, free, single, Costa Rica. Like... Where on earth did Costa Rica come from? Did you throw a dart at a map, or was you?
Actually, I went on holiday there the year before, and I just fell in love with it, and I kind of decided that I wanted to do that while I was out there.
Did you work there, or did you go and rent?
So I saved up, obviously, but I went and worked. I did a month's course for teaching English while I was there. And then I actually didn't do that then once, because basically they wanted you to commit about 10 hours a day. And they actually gave me a job as a copywriter, not even a teacher afterwards. And it was I would have had to move to the city away from the beach where I was, which was kind of like not what I went there for as well. And then I decided I was going to commit that time to the writing, because I knew if I took that job, it would just consume everything and I wouldn't get it done. So I got a little promo girl job in a hotel and used to like walk the beaches and give out leaflets and stuff for a few hours every day. It was literally like 3 hours a day walking on the beach. I didn't mind that. So
that sounds arduous.
Yeah.
And so you wrote these books independently. You got into your self-publishing. Caroline, you had a bit more time to focus on the marketing side of things, but Susanne, I mean, she shared some of this with you, right? So
yeah, definitely. And Caroline's like always been really good with she'd tell me how to do it, but I think my brain's a bit more, I don't know if I can't grasp it or I just don't try because I have. So, and then I'd be like, what if I pay you to do it for me? And then we were sort of trying to figure out, and she was obviously writing more books at that point, so I was doing more editing for her, and we were kind of coming to a bit of a agreement with sort of helping each other out a bit.
Okay, so when you got to 2018, before you started collaborating on the writing, how many books did you have out each, and where were you in terms of marketing and selling?
I had 9. So
wow.
A series of 5 completed, and then a series of I haven't completed that series, so it would be fine. But yeah, so I had 9 out, and then with 3 novellas as well. So I got them all out, and they were all doing okay. I was making like £500 a month, but obviously it wasn't like money that I could go and have as my job. But from basically not advertising or doing anything, they were just doing that, just ticking over kind of thing.
I had 12 out, and then the bulk of my money came from the vampire series after I launched that pretty well, because I'd done it to market and I obviously advertised it and everything, and I kind of knew what I was doing at that point because I'd spent so much time like reading all the stuff online and everything. So that one went pretty well straight away.
Yeah, and beautiful cover.
The covers.
Prolific writing. I mean, I mean,
it took
done 20 odd books between you in just a few. How many years? 4 years?
Yeah, that was 2015 we published. So then
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah,
3 years.
About 100,000 words each, those books. So they're not like the longest.
Still, I think that's very impressive. You've obviously got the writing bit done. So you decided to come together. Basically, Susanne, you noticed that your sister was making money, and you thought, I want a bit of this. And
well, I just had my son, and working here wasn't really working out. Mum and Dad wanted to kind of scale the business back, and obviously taking my wages out of the equation would be quite good for that. And after my maternity leave, it was kind of like, could you come back and not work as many hours so that they could leave the money lower and stuff? And then it was like, okay, but then I need to get back to that money. So I don't know exactly what we were sort of discussing. Shall we could try out this co-authoring thing, and then we were like, we could certainly write the books quicker, and and then sort of
we started January 2019. We wrote our first book together.
I think about January 5th, I remember getting like a text from Caroline just being like, so are we going to do it though? Should we like actually let's do it. Let's give it. Let's actually.
It's that New Year time, isn't it, where you decide you're going to do something. So your parents made you redundant effectively just after you had a child. This is what I'm hearing.
They gave it to me then.
They passed me off.
Here's some booties for the baby, and by the way, here's the job centre. Anyway, yes. So I could see how that happened, and I think you're supportive of your parents scaling back.
100%, yeah. And they totally. I mean, like they made it so I didn't have to get a real job. And I wouldn't do well in the real world. I'm not good at being told what to do. I don't like turning up at certain times for things. I'm not on time for things I arrange myself.
No, none of us do. And once you start this world, you can never go back, by the way, you know that.
Yeah.
So you started writing, and then how did you approach writing a book together? First decision is genre, I guess.
Yeah.
So we tried to, the first series we did together, we tried to cross our 2 genres. So we did a dystopian vampire romance.
Right. You tried to cross the streams.
Yeah, we thought we'll bring our 2 reader groups together, and that'd be a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, my reader group was about 100 people at that point, so it probably wasn't really that relevant, but it seemed like quite
500-ish.
Yeah,
at that point,
we were like, let's bring them together, and we'll do that. And we did 7 books. We started writing in January. We started publishing in March. We published 1 every 2 weeks.
It was insane. We caught up with ourselves because we wrote them before, but only about 2 or 3
ahead.
And we caught up with ourselves on the
release
dates.
We released them every week, weren't we?
We decided to just do a rapid release.
Sorry, just explain that to me again. How quickly did you write these books?
So, well, those books are about 100,000 words, aren't they?
Yeah.
And obviously there's only 50,000 each. We were turning them around within about 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is still what we do now, but our books are more like 200,000 words.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah.
So that was your dystopian vampires was the first series.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that go?
It did go well.
Yeah, that made us the money that we needed. So I wanted to be able to, I wanted like £2,000 a month minimum. So I was like, that pretty much matches my wages. And then if I can get that, and like we can get that each, then then we'll kind of that I could happily leave working in the category and run on it.
And you're doing most of the marketing, Caroline, for this?
Yeah,
or?
I do all the marketing for it. So Facebook and Amazon ads we do.
Okay.
And then we focus a lot on our Facebook group, getting all the readers involved with everything. So that's like a really big part of our like marketing.
Our group really.
And we've got a newsletter as well.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll talk about marketing in a moment. Let's just carry on with the craft side of things, with writing. Yeah. So, I mean, you sit down and you knock out the words, which is great. You did that.
It's really
we really like we made our process through doing that, because initially we didn't plan out the books chapter by chapter. We just kind of were like, let's have an idea, a vague beginning and end.
We had kind of separate stories going on within the same book.
Yeah.
So I had
two characters,
two sisters who weren't together, and they were coming together, and two separate love interests and stuff. That's how we initially did it, because we were like, well, it's like two separate stories within one, but they're obviously linked to the main story. They were going towards the end goal together. But, so we could kind of have our own story that didn't really matter what was happening in each other. It did still work. Well, it was like coming towards that. And they didn't actually end up in the same place until book 3, at which point we had to plan it a bit more.
Start doing it a bit more like now the characters, because when one chapter ends and the characters are all together, we have to know where they were.
Yeah, like what time of day it is and stuff. Like so many times we would be like, I send a chapter over and Callum would be like, great, but it's actually midday. And I was like, oh, I did it in the middle of the night. But like now that just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, we plot everything chapter by chapter now, so we know exactly where we are.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good way of getting writing done quickly, though, wasn't it? Where you could write your own stories within the books going together, and then you'd share. At what point would you be sharing your writing? Every day or so, would you look at each other's writing, or
every chapter? So
every chapter. Okay.
I'd write a chapter and send it to Caroline. She'd write a chapter, send it to me, and then we edit it for each other, send it back, put it in the main document.
So we always rotate. So it'll be my chapter, then Suzanne's, my chapter, then Suzanne's. Never really. Occasionally we have
later books, because we end up with like 8 characters that we write from in later books. So sometimes it might work out that we get a double. But
and is that how you laid out the book? It would be one character for one chapter, and then the other character.
Yeah. So initially we just did it from those 2 characters, didn't we? And then we started to be like, oh, we'll have some from the love interest. Yeah. I think now in the later books there's like 5, 6, 7 character point of views.
Yeah.
And so that first series did well, as you say, profiting. Bringing in a revenue of allowed you to take I guess £4,000 a month profit if you were
it was about 4,000 to 5,000 a month we were making on that.
Yeah.
Excellent. And that's profit after ad spend.
We were spending only about it was low then, like 200 or 300.
Because I was like,
Dad was still afraid to spend.
Very afraid. It's like, but this is my money. And it's still, that series still does quite well. It's in a box set now, and we what was it, about 50,000
we make
in KU reads.
It's 500,000 KU reads a month on that box set.
And how many books is in the book? Books in that set?
Seven, and then each individual book makes about 30 to 40,000 a month. KU reads, not pounds.
Yeah. Divided by 0.0045 for cents. No, that's superb. That's really good. Obviously, the first thing to say is your writing must be fabulous, because the readers obviously love it, and you've got a system going early days that allowed you to write independently. And then after that series, did you obviously start to think about your process, but also your genre?
Yeah, so we looked.
Well, we did Aladdin, which went terribly.
I forgot about Aladdin. I forget Aladdin.
The Aladdin film was coming out, and we were like, everybody's going to want Aladdin. Fairy tale retellings are super hot. This was my idea, so it's all on me. We were like, let's go for the 2 characters thing again. So we'll do a mashup. So we did Aladdin and Rapunzel, and like I still stand by that those books are good.
They are good,
but they did not sell.
There's not a massive market for it. I think we realised afterwards.
And I think we kind of went a bit. Like, I think maybe it should have been more YA, and we were a bit like too much swearing and
a bit darker.
We're a bit dark, and maybe it was just a bit. People, our like readers who have read it have really enjoyed it, and we enjoyed it. But it was going to be 5 books, and I think by the release of the second book, we were like, no, we'll make it a trilogy. Get it done. Get rid of it.
We could see it just wasn't going to sell the way that the Vampire one had.
Just wasn't, the ads weren't conversing and stuff, but it just didn't really work.
Was that just a one-off book? The Aladdin
trilogy.
Oh, that was a trilogy. That's 3.
Yeah.
You don't do anything by half, so you'd never do just one.
It was going to be 5, and then we were like, no,
within 2 months we'd done that. I think it was about 2 months.
So Rapunzel gone bad type genre didn't take off. And then what did you do?
So then we were like, right, let's look at this whole thing. Obviously, you're talking about on like 20 books and stuff. What? I don't know what your genres. Looking at the right to market.
We were looking at. So Academy was really hot. I think it still is really hot at the moment. In paranormal romance.
Just explain Academy to people who aren't familiar with the genre.
So it's basically like set in a school, like high school to college age, and then it's like magic, and there's all kinds of different versions that people do of it now.
I kind of think of it as like the Harry Potter genre, like age of people who like grew up.
I just saw it. Yeah,
she's like run away.
I should have
like so like I think of like the people who grew up reading Harry Potter and then they're grown up and they want a more adult. That's what I think is where the hunger for it's come from. It could be wrong, but it seems like I think a lot of people want that like darker, grittier, more grown up version of that kind of school, like college age.
So that was your next series, and at this stage, had you started moving away from the kind of independent storylines?
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't.
Well, no, we still did two sisters.
Yeah,
so we still, we still did two sisters. So they were like twin sisters who ended up in the Fae world and didn't realize they were Fae, and we did went down that whole thing, and then we took a new spin on things like shifters and vampires and stuff, and we did a lot of work on the world building. I mean, we started planning that out for ages.
Yeah,
we drew maps and like we're like, let's really, if we're going to do it, like let's really do it and invest in.
We kind of sat down in the sense of like, what do we want from Academy? We read in the genre, and then we were like, what do we enjoy? What do we want more? Yeah.
So is this a subgenre of urban fantasy? Is that what you describe it as, or not?
I get urban fantasy and paranormal romance mixed up, but there's a lot of romance in ours, whereas people say urban fantasy, I don't know,
it's not so romance driven.
But we have like a strong plot that isn't the romance.
We get called both, maybe so we're not really sure. Maybe
okay.
I'm not too sure. It crosses over somewhere.
Yeah, like you could take the romance out, and ours would still have a very strong story, but also the romance is kind of like what everyone lives for when they're reading it. So we're quite mean. It's
a Hollywood thriller. It's like Top Gun with the love bit. You could be in there, or could be out of it, but it's still got the story. Okay. So you started that. You started with the two sisters again, and then I'm just interested in how your process has evolved to where you are today.
Mm-hmm. So with that, we did a lot more carefully. I mean, well, actually, initially that book only took place in the space of about a week, than it timeline-wise, because we still weren't very good at skipping the time and stuff. But we did much more like, well, we had timetables and stuff, and we were like, they'll be in this class on this day, and then, and then when that ends, it's this time of the day, and then because it was because they were like joining this new world, it felt really weird to be like, and then a week later, I suddenly realised, I don't know, that there was a dragon shifter in the room next door or whatever. So it seemed it had to be quiet. But
we'd had planned that because we based it all around like the Zodiac and astrology, we wanted the classes in it and to do all of that, keep that part of it in it. So if we'd skipped time, then they would have been missing all those first lessons, and then we would have had to like back explain them, or just be like, I'd been in this lesson before, and so we just ended up having like because there was so much content that we wanted,
like in tarot and like so many things that we figured out. And Caroline's brilliant at the research of all that sort of stuff. And I'll be like, and then they had a fight lesson, and they were all fighting. Caroline's like, all the numerology stuff down to the details, like perfect.
You're the details person, Caroline. So how did you actually go about planning this and plotting it? What sort of methodology did you use to share this between you? Did you have sessions where you'd physically come together, sit in a room and do some plotting? And
we were house sitting.
We were here.
So Mum and Dad were away, and Suzanne was house sitting for them. So I came over, and we spent, I think it took us a few days to plan this one. The first Zodiac book, and then we did it literally chapter by chapter. We knew that we needed to do that for this as well, because they were going to be the characters interacting all the time.
They were all in the same place, so it had to be a lot of that. And we had it's a bully romance as well, so it had a lot of
what romance? Bully. I see. You know, somebody who reads Len Deighton thrillers where you get a communist and so I have to get into all these subgenres.
You want the bad boy bully romance. That's what you want.
Bully romance. Okay, that's a bad boy romance. I understand that. So bully romance is
So bully romance, they're specifically mean to the girl they fall in love with.
Yes.
It was like a really hot genre, and it still is coming in at that time. So we were like, let's do Academy, let's bully.
Fae was really big.
Fae was really hot,
And then we did, we made the Fae have orders. So that's like vampires and werewolves and shifters, so we got it all.
So we made that we could have everything in it, because I was concerned about moving away from vampires, because my series had been so popular, and then our Age of Vampires that we did together was popular. So I was like, we must have vampires in it, because if everyone's reading for the vampires, we can't lose them.
Some fan service for the vampires, yeah.
They want their dark brooding vampires.
Yeah.
So that's it. What was that series called? This is the second one after the
Zodiac Academy.
Yeah.
Zodiac Academy. Okay. And how did that go commercially?
Very well.
This is our biggest series. We're still writing that
just
one.
released book 5 of that. So really, really well.
So our first month we managed to get 2 books out in that first month somehow. We released on the 2nd of August last year, and then the 30th of August we somehow got the second book out. But I don't remember.
I think we must have had the first book written. Maybe we gave it to the art. We only give our art readers a week now, but I think back then we gave them maybe even a month. So we had the other one written. And going through as well.
We had a 6-week pre-order for book 1, because we wanted to do a massive marketing push on it, with Facebook ads, and I won't go too much into the marketing if you don't want to just yet. But so we got up to £10,000 in August across the board on all of our books once Zodiac had released at the start of August.
Fantastic. So your first 5-figure month.
Yeah.
I was counting the figures.
Yeah.
Not one for numbers.
Yeah. start after the decimal point. And we met Caroline for the first time, I think, in November in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So this was all sort of had happened at that point for you, and you were.
Yeah, so it had just happened.
Yeah.
Just started.
Yeah, we would have had maybe book 3 out by then, I think. Maybe.
Because we went on holiday in the September and then decided to do a spin-off series.
Yeah, because it was doing so well.
Yeah.
So you carried on with the Academy series. Is that still going? You're still writing into that series?
Yeah, we're still writing that one. We've done a spin-off, another Academy in the Same World series, which
we did Reverse Harem as well.
Okay, and I've heard of Reverse Harem as
You've heard that one?
Yeah.
So that's within the Same World.
Yes. Actually outsells Zodiac.
Yeah.
Even though Zodiac gets like
Zodiac's the most popular. Yeah. Those people will say that they're in love with Zodiac, and they would say the Dark Fae and the Dark Moor books add to that because they're in the same world. But yeah, I think the Reverse Harem sells better. But it does. Yeah.
Did you know there's a lot of academic work going to be done on the state of feminism and women based on the genres and subgenres that emerged during the self-publishing era? I can see it now happening. The bully romance, the reverse harem. What's this say about the state of Anyway, that's not for us to...
It's just all the women. There's men can treat you terribly, but that means you get to have 5 of them. And they got put up with it.
I always knew the bad uns, the bad boys got the girls. Always suspected it was the case. Anyway, so you're still writing to that series. You did the spin-off series, and where are you now in terms of, if you don't mind sharing some of your stats now about terms of income?
Yeah, so last month was our biggest month ever. We released the 5th book of Zodiac.
Yeah. Well, we also have got out a new series. We did a contemporary Reverse Harem series
based on the quarantine and the lockdown.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So we wrote that within 2 weeks, and we got that out in April, mid-April, called Kings of Quarantine.
And it just went really crazy.
Crazy. Done so well. I made like £10,000 in that 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah,
on its own. And we're just about to release the second one in that series as well, which is, so that's contemporary, so that's completely separate. But that one plus Zodiac, and then the 2 spin-off Reverse Harem series we've done from that, and another contemporary book that we did that was a standalone, which is all what we've done since August.
Yeah. So those, because they dropped so close to each other, then May we took £50,000.
Yeah.
Total.
Yeah, it's like 52, wasn't it?
Yeah.
52. Not that anyone's counting. So goodness me, this time next year we could be looking at 6-figure months.
I can't even, like, it's...
Money doesn't really feel real. We haven't spent any of it.
No, we're just like, let's just keep writing books. I don't want it to drop. Like, I don't want to like believe in it. Yeah, it's scary to believe in it.
And your parents, who said you should get a proper job, who I have seen at various points in the interview behind your shoulders, they must be
peering in the window.
Have they said maybe we were wrong about that writing thing to you?
They've always been really supportive.
Yeah, they were always really supportive. It was just like, you can't just do that and sit in the room upstairs and not have a job and not earn any money. So we had to work, and we had to work in the category, or we had to go out and get jobs.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. I mean,
Which is
you
fair
can't
enough,
be sat at home when you're 25 telling your mum and dad to just shush because you're writing.
I'm going to be a rock star, type thing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But you
I
are...
always saw I was going to say, I always saw the potential in it because I could see other people doing it. And from even just on a small scale, because I was like, I can see every book I release makes me a bit more and feeds back into the series. And I thought, just at some point, I will make enough. Even if it's only, £50 on each book, eventually it had to pay off. And
be enough to, all we wanted to do was be full time. We said, we were like, we could just make £2,000 each a month. That's it. That's full time money. That's what we made. Yeah, that's like our old wages. And and that's so we were like, so long as we can rely on that.
You are rock stars. You've done incredibly well, and like I say, a lot of it goes back to your writing. We've also, I guess, your secret sauce is the attention to detail from you, Caroline, on the marketing side. Not to belittle the important craft work you're doing, Susanne, but you do need a marketing head.
I'm all in for the content, but Caroline's all the rest of it.
I think the books have to be ready and marketable, like that's before, because like I say with the Aladdin ones, I couldn't sell it. I could throw as much money as possible, and I can't sell it. So I just and if I can spend, say I spent £10 on that book, but I spend that £10 on another book that does sell, that will return us so much more that it's not worth it. You
have to have the right book to be able to do it, but once you've got them there,
definitely. Well, I'm still trying to process how quickly you turn around the books. In fact, before we move on to marketing, let me just ask you about editing. Do you go, you say you edit each other at the beginning, do you go outside to editors, or are you doing this all in-house?
No, we still edit each other.
You basically don't have your books edited, is what you're saying.
No,
we don't have them edited. Well, we do, we edit each other.
Yeah, we've always done it, and we're
both quite hot on everything with all that, the punctuation and the grammar and stuff. We're both quite.
And we had a friend that's an editor who sort of trained us up a little bit.
She actually worked in trad pubs with them. So she sat with us. She literally had printed out manuscripts of our first books, and we sat there one evening, and bless her heart, she literally, I don't even know the amount of time she was to spend with the red marker.
Yeah.
And was this is how you do speech in a book, and I didn't even know that you put a comma and then a speech mark.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
You don't realise.
You don't realise how different things.
Doesn't matter how many books you read, you don't notice any of that stuff until you try to write.
Until you see that someone's doing it wrong. And then you're like, oh.
So that's really interesting. So you still edit in-house, if you like, between the two of you, but because there's two of you, I guess that works.
It gets 2 eyes, which works because we get 4 or 5 edits now, because it goes, I read it and edit it myself, and I send it to Susanne. She reads and edits it, and it comes back and it goes in our main document, and then we read it all all We've actually cut down on a lot of edits.
Yeah, we've cut them back because 12. We just weren't. We weren't really finding any mistakes anymore. And we were like, oh, I really have to read
just moving
this
the
whole
commas around,
200,000 word novel again.
Yeah,
because now their books are now over 200,000 words. Because with being so much KU, and with us being able to write so quickly, we can write up to 10,000 words a day each now.
Wow.
So we write every day. So we try and do a chapter a day. Yeah. So I'd say between 6 and 10 most days each.
And then we rely on our beta readers and ARC readers.
Yeah, I was going to just ask you about the ARC team. So how big is your ARC team, and how important are they in the process?
So we have this really fun, we've only just got an ARC team of 50 people, but before that, and what we still do is give 100 ARCs out in our group as this Hunger Games death match.
Oh, they have to physically fight to get the coupon.
They have to be one of the first 100 people to comment, which obviously when there was 500 people in the group, they had a good chance, and now we're over 3,000. They're literally there all day stalking. We'll say ARCs are dropping today, and they're just and then we do a 10-minute countdown, whereas a post every minute from the characters saying you got 10 minutes to get on this thing, and then they all comment, and within literally 10 seconds
I filmed it. It's so funny. It just goes ding 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 ding.
Yeah, and then people are because they wrote the word please, now they literally put one letter, just literally and they still won't necessarily get it, and we feel really bad because we're they've been there all day and they really wanted the ARC, and
but what we decided to keep it that way is because it still makes it fairer than sort of saying you taking on a team and saying no one else can join in. So we've kind of said we've got our 50 ARC team, and we'll give 100 away to whoever can get the hands out quick enough.
So everyone gets a shot at every book in the group, and it makes the group so active. They love it. And we're doing that every 3 weeks or so.
And does that work for you in terms of feedback for the book?
So this is why we decided to make the ARC team, was because we were finding, obviously, when it got so popular, we were then getting a lot of new readers or completely random people who maybe didn't, like, obviously a lot of people, they just don't see the mistakes and stuff. And we were like, oh, there's certain people that are so great and we really need them to get a copy. So then we decided to take applications and make a team of like those sort of hardcore 50 people who we know are really going to
and people that can review on Amazon, because not everyone can.
You give out 100 and then they're all like, well, I'll do a Goodreads review, and it's like, oh, thanks.
Well, Amazon, thank you.
Or it's like people in other countries and stuff, and like you feel bad, but obviously mainly we need it to be on the US store and the UK store. And there's Australia and Canada we sell very well as well, but like you get 10 people who are doing it in India, but it's not really going to help like having those reviews on there from just from that point of view, the numbers of the reviews on the big stores that we sell in.
Okay, well, let's talk a bit about marketing. So whose idea was the ARC Hunger Games?
I've always done it. I think,
we always did it. We just never had. I mean, I couldn't get 100 people to take it.
It'd be like I didn't even put a number on it.
I think we didn't have enough people to ask to be like, oh, like let's have a team. So we were like, we'll offer it to everyone in our group, and if anyone happens to be free and might want to read a book in the next month, like whereas now we like literally give them a week, and we're like,
even up until last year, it would take a while to get the 100 people.
It might take 15 minutes or something.
And then now we just kept it that way because it's quite fun.
They love it,
So the Facebook
they
group,
love it and they hate it.
The Facebook group and the your mailing list are important parts, certainly for your launching, by the sounds of it.
They're definitely
pre-orders. Okay, and in terms of paid marketing, you mentioned Facebook and Amazon ads. Just talk about those. What kind of split between them and.
So I used to focus a lot more on Facebook advertising, and that's still like a big part of our advertising. But I always wanted to move over to Amazon because I was like, that's where the readers are and that's where they're looking. And initially I couldn't even get the ads to run. Like back when I was doing this before with Susanne, it took me a long time to get to it. And finally I got it running, and Amazon overhauled their whole system literally like a month later. And I was like, for God's sake.
Hey, welcome to our world when we've done an entire course on one platform.
Of course. It's so frustrating. Like even Facebook have changed everything now. But I feel like the core things I learned about Facebook initially still work. But Amazon, I had to relearn it all. I read like Deb Zebb's book. And I was so lucky in Vegas because when we queued up to get our lanyards, I happened to go in the queue next to Deb Zebb.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't realise, we were talking for ages, and then she was like, oh yeah, I wrote this book on Amazon ads. And I was like, oh my God. And I had so many questions that are like blanks that I just didn't have about, I just couldn't get things right in my head. And she explained why we had this 30-minute wait in the queue, and it was just changed.
I just got this phone call from her like, you'll never guess. And I'm just at home like, wow.
That justified your trip to Vegas in one conversation. I bet it did in terms of results as well. So Amazon ads has gone well for you. Just on the Facebook ad side, are you using that for mailing list building or for sales?
Sales,
Sales,
so
okay.
It did take a little while, but now I don't know if this is a fact, but I seem to find the better a book sells, the more Amazon ads push it, like the more it runs. So I had like as soon as things started selling better for us, Amazon ads kicked in anyway, so I could target like more bigger authors and start getting them actually running after a while. So now we're up to about £5,000 a month spend.
Wow!
The last 2 months, which is obviously a massive jump from where we were last year. But what we're bringing in obviously makes it worthwhile for sure. But it was scary scaling.
But you say it's scary, but you've done it, and you've obviously ultimately not been too frightened to scale up, which is an important thing. Was there some resistance from your sister on this?
The hard thing initially was because you're 3 months behind with the money coming in. So you're like, well, we need to spend like £1,000 this month, but your cut's going to be £1,000 when it comes in because that month we only made like whatever. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, just do it. And I just had to we just had to have faith in it and just go, okay, let it go. And then at the time I was still getting money from, probably was still getting my maternity payout as well, because I was getting the government maternity money, and I was still getting some wages from here. And I think I was like, okay, yeah, just let it go, because I could see every month we did it, we made more money. So like you just had to kind of.
Initially, we had a 0% credit card as well, so we didn't have to pay it off straight away. So it was like a little bit of a loan that got us by those first, when it started jumping up a little bit bigger. So we could wait for those bigger payouts.
Yes.
To
that lag is frustrating, but you've built up a bit of a reserve now, so you can afford these bigger months. And 5,000 a month is a decent sized operation you're running the two of you.
Yeah, and it's pretty decently split evenly for Facebook and Amazon still.
Okay.
I think I feel like I could be better at both platforms. I'm not like one of those people that monitors it all the time. I'm not a numbers person at all. Like, honestly, how many times I have to send her like the invoices and
she
stuff.
Sends me an invoice and she's like, send me the money. So I send it over and she's like, don't send that money, I got it wrong. And I'm like, well, it's too late.
That was one time.
it was only the other day.
I spent it. On a champagne. Okay, so your Amazon ads platform. So I can ask you these questions now because I market 6 books that Mark and I took on from February. So I now run Amazon ads campaigns. Was before I would require Mark to ask some of these questions. But these books also are all in KU, and it's definitely profitable. But I have to use benchlining to work out it's profitable. When I look at the Amazon ads platform, I think only one of my campaigns out of 6 has ever shown an actual profit in there. Because first of all, it doesn't take account of KU. And second of all, it doesn't take account of read through. So do your campaigns show profit to you day by day, or is that only it's profitable because of the wider picture?
No, it's always in the red. It doesn't show the profit. It is basically what actually changed my opinion on going a bit harder with it was Brian Cohen's talk at Vegas, because he said you need to be comparing to your KDP chart. What your Amazon chart is showing to get a kind of idea about where it is. And he's like, if you're in like the green, especially like big jumps, then that's an answer for you, even though it's not accurate. So at the end of the day, like, and I can see from when we do scale, we make more money. And even though it's not a very accurate, like if you don't have the numbers, but you can see that it's working. So
it's interesting, and it's running a business, isn't it? And do you feel when you're doing that work, it feels very different from the craft side of it, from the writing side of things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but with the ads now, it's kind of like I set them and go. I'm not like, it's not something I spend loads of time on, but every now and then it will need, like when we're launching a new series, particularly as I only advertise book ones in each series. So that will take that'll be a much bigger push.
Figuring out what works for that series. And where we obviously now selling in contemporary as well as paranormal, we've got like obviously slightly different readerships on the two. So there's like a little bit of a, obviously we get crossover, but some people don't. And then actually with the reverse harem as well, some people won't read both reverse harem and just MF. they don't want all these little, but enough of them cross over. We have some people, obviously the diehards will read whatever it is, whatever way we write it, and that's great. And then some of them will only dip in for certain ones. But then I kind of feel safer in that, because I was always really worried that Zodiac had taken off so big, and I was like, but that series has to come to an end. And if that's the series that made us the money, it could be like flash in the pan, and then it all goes to hell. So now that we've got 4 series, 5. Haven't 5 that are selling really well. 6 series that are selling.
5 series that are selling well. No, 6 if you include the vampires.
6 series that are selling well.
So
across different genres. So I feel like now.
What about your solo books you wrote before you started collaborating? Are they gone by the wayside now, or do you put them into the mix as well?
So my vampire one consistently gets me that £2,000 a month, which was what I wanted from it, and it sticks at that pretty solidly. I think the great thing about having more series is obviously you'll always feed back a little bit, but it's like it still is just enough away from what we're writing now that you won't get everyone rushing back to those the old ones. But it just keeps it ticking along, and I've still got ads running, but not much. I spend about £200 a month still, which was what I used to spend on that.
So you have your own author business and the collaboration business, or both of you still run things separately?
Well, we're slightly. So basically mine, I will blame it on giving the Prime deal, but I don't know. I was consistently making £500 a month on my 9 books, my dystopian, just with doing zero, nothing at all. And then I got a message from Amazon saying, would you like to chuck your book one in Amazon's Prime thingy? So I did it, and it killed the series.
Right.
It killed it. It just completely, it never recovered. It just dropped down because they're kind of, the two series kind of, they're linked. And then it just went down to £100 a month from there on out.
Wow.
And then I was like, it's not doing anything. It's just sat there. So I pulled that first series quite recently and just gave it the first book a new edit. I just kind of made it a bit more adult.
Yeah, I gave it a new cover.
Caroline gave it a new cover. She makes all our covers as well.
Okay. Wow.
And then we relaunched it, the first book, and that made about £1,000.
Yeah. So that, and then it made us about 800 last month. So
yeah.
So if we get that series
still
redone.
Yeah, so I'm slowly going to relaunch that whole series, and then the 4 books in the other one, and then finish writing the other one, because I do have it like 80% written. I just kind of forget that it's there.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you feel bad because people ask, but then it's like, well, it just doesn't really make any money. It's like, if I'm going to spend 4 or 5 days doing that, I'd just sooner get another book out that will obviously pay the bills.
Sure.
So
you do the covers as well, Suzanne? You do. Sorry, Caroline. You do all the covers.
I do all the covers.
Just all the covers.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
I'm just the annoying person that she sends it to, and then goes, "How is it?" And I go, "Great, that bit's wrong."
Yeah, but that's what I need. I can't see it after a while.
But but I mean, she's brilliant.
But yeah, I've done
and all the formatting.
It was originally, to save money, and then I did we have this photography course thing I did was it before we started writing or something? I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I'd come out of university, come out of uni, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I took a photography course, and it gave me some basic sort of Photoshop skills. And then I just started making the covers really from there, and then hopefully got better now.
They look great. I'm just looking at them on.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So.
Well, when we launched, I can say it because I didn't make it. And when we launched Kings of Quarantine and we were getting promos with people kept asking her who made the covers, and asking for a recommendation. She was like, "Oh, well, that was me." I think with going for the symbols and stuff obviously makes it slightly easier.
Game of Thrones, isn't it? The quarantine.
Yeah.
Books,
So
and Zodiac's a bit like that. The symbol of the Zodiac.
So the Academy tend to be the girl. Which is what obviously the reverse harem ones are, but there are enough of the symbol ones that we were like, we'll give it a shot. With that, I think it makes them stand out. People recognise that that's our books and stuff, and we're kind of more confident now to kind of do our own thing a bit with stuff.
And I'm sure it's hard work trawling through all those images of the bad boys to put on the cover. I can see them now in the Broken Fae book, standing there looking mean with his tats. Remind me what Fae stands for.
Fae is like the fairies, Sealy Court type thing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It kind of means what you. Yeah, it's kind of
it's like it means another race of like magic folk, I guess.
It's just like
really powerful, and
it means a lot of different things in a lot of different books. I don't think there's a set. This is what Fae are. Some of them have wings, and some of them don't. It's kind of fairies, and but not.
Yeah.
It's just got really hot. I don't know. We made it our own thing.
It's like slightly kind of trend fairies rather than the ones at the end of the garden. A bit more urban.
Yeah, not like that.
No.
They're not
miniature.
The kind of fairies who might kill you.
Out here, my garden. Yeah. Actually, I should say it's torrential rain here, which people probably hear at my recording.
Yeah, so. That's why we're not in the conservatory.
Okay, look, my final thing I'm going to ask you about is just literally the writing. I mean, you're doing 10,000 words a day each now.
Up to.
Okay.
I'd say like a 5,000 that's pretty standard. Definitely, we'll get 5,000 done.
Okay, so tell me your routines. Are they very similar? Your process for writing?
Well, we're because Suzanne's got the kids. We're on a very different.
So my son went through a stage of getting up at 5:30 in the morning.
Nice.
Every day, but then he was super quiet, sitting in his high chair, just really chill because he was tired and he was like watching TV and eating and doing things. So I would write, and then my daughter doesn't get up till 8 because she has one of those sunshine clocks and she doesn't dare. And then my son starts.
I'm scared of getting up early now. Yeah.
Literally, I hear her coming outside and I'm like, sunshine's not up. She just, the footsteps just go back. I'm sorry. So, but then when he stopped doing that and started sleeping in later, I just was like, do you know what? That's the best time of day I get for writing. So I still get up at 6, and between 6 and 8, Roman might wake up during that time, but he'll just sit eating his breakfast, and I can do at least 2 hours, which I'll get the bulk of my writing done. Quiet.
Yeah.
Nobody's around, and I can just at least I'll get a good chunk of my chapter for the day done in that period of time, and then it just really fits in around everything else with the kids and whatever nap times.
And you're dictating, or actually writing with a keyboard, or handwriting with a quill, or
I write on an iPad.
On an iPad.
Well,
on the actual iPad, or do you have a key? Tell me you have a keyboard. How on earth? It would take me half an hour to do an email.
I don't even have a stand. I just have it on my knee, or I sit at the table, at the dining table with my daughter has a little tin that has pencils in it, and I just wedge it on there.
Oh my God.
But I kind of vaguely mean to get a laptop. But at the time, initially I couldn't afford it, and then now I can afford it, but I just don't have the time to research it. So I just every now and then say to my husband, I should get a laptop, and eventually he'll probably look up for me and find out one that I could get. But I'm also kind of worried because I can write so fast on the iPad, changing over to a keyboard again. I'm a bit like,
it's what you know, isn't it? Although I'd worry about your back and everything over a period of time, hunched over on that. But anyway, that's up to you. Get a little MacBook Pro is one of that. Nice. You had a $50,000 a month last month. You can get a MacBook Pro each.
I just still feel like when it's spending any of the money, I'm just like,
it's sitting in the bank account.
It's going to offset your profits as well. So think of it that way. And you get the VAT back, presumably if you're VAT registered. All those things, which Caroline will tell you about because she does, I'm sure, the figures. So Caroline, what's your routine?
So I'm pretty flexible because I work, I just live at home with my dog. So I get up probably about 8:30, 9, and then I spend the morning writing. And then I'm not very good writing in the afternoon, so I usually do some promo stuff then, marketing things, and then I'll do a little bit more in the evening and finish off my chapter.
And how do you write?
That's pretty standard. Just on my laptop, I'm sitting on the sofa with my dog beside me.
I have dreams of an office one day.
Yeah, I would like an office. I've only got one.
I'll buy a house and hopefully have room for an office.
Well, look, whatever it is, it works. And works really well. I just want to say congratulations. You're a fantastic team, the two of you. It's really lovely as well. I'm sure your parents are heartwarmed by your success and knowing that their daughters are working together. It's I speak as a parent, how lovely that would be to see that in the future. I cannot imagine for one moment my son and daughter being in the same room on a collaborative project, but they're teenagers at the moment. So good. Living the dream, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Still doesn't really feel real.
Yeah. Ask us next year, then we'll be like, oh, finally, we've accepted it.
I don't think I'll believe it until I spend it. Which I probably won't do until I buy a house. So it's just going to sit there and I'm like...
Well, just baby steps. Start with that MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
And then migrate from there to a house.
Yeah.
Good. Well, look, thank you so much indeed for taking some time out. We were going to do this, and literally, I think lockdown, the world went crazy during that period. I see you've cashed in on that with your books, which is great. Good for you. It's a very wise marketing head, and I'm full of admiration. You told me your story, Caroline, back in Vegas. Then we met Susanne in on that crowded boat.
Yes.
In the middle of a COVID
the
virus.
Last thing we did.
Yeah, it was actually, wasn't it? Like the day before lockdown, pretty much.
It was all of us. That was my last time I ventured out the house, but it was fantastic hearing it, and I'm so pleased you've come on. I think it's going to be genuinely very inspirational listening to your story. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
What a pleasure. We wanted to bring you that interview a little bit earlier, but they suddenly got locked down in their separate homes. Suzanne's got some children to look after, and they were in their bubble, and Caroline was in the other. But anyway, we got them together as soon as the rules relaxed a little bit over here. And great, yes, so just doing everything right, Mark. I mean, clearly, following your course has been key for them, but writing a lot, getting the books turned around quickly, really understanding why some books do well with their readers, why some series that they might love writing but haven't done so well. That doesn't mean they're not going to write in those, but they are going to obviously have a commercial bent to their decision making. And how lovely that two young women who thought probably living as a writer was a far off dream and unavailable to them in reality. But that's, again, one of the great things this indie transformation to publishing has allowed, is people like Caroline and Suzanne to flourish and prove their parents wrong.
Yeah, it's great. I met them on the boat as well and had a good chat with both of them and was really impressed. You can tell very obviously and very quickly the authors who are good writers and also savvy business people, and it was pretty obvious to me that they hit both of those qualifications with some to spare. So it's really nice to see that. And also I will also mention we've just had, I think, 2 or 3 posts in the mastery group after the launch of the ads course a month ago, with authors who are now doing really well. I mean, Mark Recklow again posted. He's had another big month. We had an author. I'm afraid her name will elude me. You might know, if you remember. But we had an author just posted half an hour ago, and she's seeing, I think her first 4-figure month. I think it was. Her mailing list is really growing fast. The ads are working for her. So, it's fantastic when you see authors like the sisters and other authors in the community, suddenly it clicks, and then before you know it, they're off to the races.
Yeah, that's Ros Kind, who posted into the group just a few moments ago. Very apposite, just had her first 4-figure royalty month, and I honestly think those first little checks, I say little checks because we've just been talking about the Peckhams with their 5-figure month and heading to a very big year, but those first moments where people are buying your book, paying you money, and they're reading it, that must be such a thrill for an author. You can probably remember when it started taking off for you.
Yeah, I can remember the first 4-figure month and thinking this is pretty cool, because making starting to edge towards what I was making as in a full-time job, and thinking, well, if I could, if I can increase that a bit, then this could be something this could be me living the dream to be an author that I've always had. And once you start to get that momentum going, the Peckhams would have seen this, and hopefully it will continue. But once you start to get the readers and you start adding books to your backlist, and they can continue through those books into new series maybe, and then they'll tell their friends, and this is all can happen exponentially. Once you get that you push that boulder down the hill and it starts to roll. Sometimes if you do everything right, it can just keep gathering momentum and you can keep improving. So it's fantastic. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear from them this time next year and they've had their first 6-figure month, and
definitely,
and before you know it, they'll have a 7-figure year, and all this kind of frankly, this absolutely amazing, the amazing possibilities that we have now as authors, and that can be as a publishing digitally or publishing a hard copy or somewhere in between, audiobooks, all the things that are available to us now. It's it is, as someone once said, it's never been a better time to be a writer.
Someone did once say that, and
don't believe what the Guardian tells you.
No, you can cancel that subscription. And yes,
I have done.
And just to underline, I'm sure you have, just to underline, we talk about Amazon ads from time to time, and I've really got my head around Amazon ads in the last 6 months as I've been running our Fuse Books account, and was a little bit stunned by the fact that you don't see profit return to you on that dashboard, despite the real world profit being there. Now, there's the Peckhams with their first $50,000 revenue month. They are coining it in at the moment to, they know that they know what their expenses are, their ad spend. They have never seen an actual profit on that ads dashboard. So they said that in the interview.
That's very interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Very interesting. But things will, as we've mentioned in the community, people will have it now. The KU metrics are now involved in Amazon. I think only through the KDP entry. I don't have it through Advantage, which is we've had some comments in the group about that.
No.
But that will start to cast a bit more light on the ads. It still won't take into account read through, because that's kind of number one on my wish list is that we get what in internet marketing would be called average customer value or average order value. So what's the one sale actually worth when you take into account other things? So one day maybe we'll get that. I know Amazon, it's on the Amazon roadmap, I think. I hope, and we'll see whether we get that in the future. But for now, having the KU stuff, that's really fantastic.
Yeah, KDP's been down this afternoon for maintenance, so I wonder if they're adding some more stuff. I would like, the pages have arrived, which is great, but they are still not translated into dollars. It's just the pages sitting there, and the dollars are the actual orders. It would be quite nice.
You can do that.
You can do it. Can you? I know you can do it on the modern the new beta dashboard.
No.
But,
with a spreadsheet.
Oh yeah, yes. Well, I do that. I do that with a spreadsheet anyway. But I'm just thinking about the dashboard, whether it would give you the option of putting in last month's rate or something, so you could at least see.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Affected the ACOS rather than having to calculate that yourself. Anyway, we mustn't grumble because it's arrived. Page reads have arrived for now, and that's only going to go one way. It's only going to get better, that dashboard, in time. Great. Do you know, I think the Peckhams should do a blog on writing for writers, and they should call it Pen It Like Peckham. Penned it like Peckham. Penned it like Peckham.
God.
There you go.
Have you been sitting on that one?
I just thought of it. Caroline and Suzanne, you can have that one on me. And hopefully, I think I keep saying this at the end of interviews, one day soon we'll be having a beer again with people in real life somewhere, and as we should be. I don't know if it's going to be this year, though. Good. Well, that was the week that was.
Yeah, it was
long.
I'm done. I'm not mentioning it ever again.
No, we're done on that one. Thank you very much for those of you who have supported Mark in particular with your comments. Every single one of those supportive comments has meant something, and I think probably enabled Mark just to limp from one minute to another at various points last week. So we've done a huge thank you to you. Be those people who are helping. A rising tide raises all ships. Hey, let's try and be a bit more like that, and a bit less like the person who goes to a national newspaper to maximise and inflict damage on people rather than perhaps being helpful. Right, that is it. I promise. That's the last thing we're going to say about it. Thank you very much indeed, Mark. We have some really good interviews coming along, and a sensational interview with Marie Force. Now, Marie was one of our very early guests. Maybe the second week, I can't remember, right at the beginning.
Yeah, early. It was early.
Really early. And I sat down with Marie virtually a couple of weeks ago and just had a ball. We had a ball talking for an hour. She's brilliant to speak to, such a lovely person and full of inspiration for us. So that interview's coming up. It's not going to be in the next couple of weeks, but we will get to it soon. I just want to trail it ahead. That is coming up soon, so stand by for that. Good. All that leads me to say, Mark, for this week, is it as a goodbye from him
and a goodbye from me. Goodbye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishingshow. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with The Self-Publishing Show.